I did it.
All right, perfect.
Okay.
Yep, transcription has started. The transcription has started. I don't know whether record. Yep, perfect. Good
My
job.
computer setting, ideally, it's going to be reset online. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to share documents, which they're all posted. But
Okay. Yeah, I could share them as well.
Christine, is Laura on?
I don't see her.
Okay. All right, we'll get started. When we do roll call, I just want to make sure I know who's on, not on.
Yeah.
Okay, let's begin our meeting of January 3rd, 2022. Happy New Year, everybody. In terms of board members, we have in attendance remotely Brian Otley, Dan Nelson, myself. Laura is not on yet, and Holly was not able to make today's meeting. From staff, we have Christine, Rob, and Stan. Christine, is Alyssa joining us today?
Yes,
yeah, I'm on.
Oh, go ahead, Alyssa.
Hi, yeah, I'm here. I'm on phone, on the phone. I am having trouble shifting over from the Agency of Ag account to the Vermont Community Broadband Board account, but I was able to join by phone for now, and I can take minutes.
Excellent. Welcome, Alyssa. We're excited to have you join and looking forward to working with you, and happy first day on the Vermont Community Broadband Board group.
Thank you.
Excellent. First item on the agenda is call to order in any changes to the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No, no.
Christine, are you going to add anything on the annual report that's due?
Yeah, I was going to talk about that, the executive update.
Okay. We won't list that as a specific change. I move that we accept the agenda as listed, or is there a second? Okay, let's do, Brian will second it. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The agenda is set as issued, and the first item up for action today is approval of 3 board meetings, minutes from 3 board meetings, November 29th, December 13th, and December 20th. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Come on, guys, wake up.
I'll make a motion. We approve the minutes of 3 board meetings.
Yes.
Listed. Is there a second? Dan has seconded that. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Next item up for agenda is review of the proposed Act 71 broadband construction RFP. Okay, Christine, do you want to kick that off for us?
Sure, and I'll, Rob, are you on the computer?
I am on the computer, so I can share. I'm back on this.
I'm
still
gonna
don't
have Rob.
Laura, do we?
Rob, go ahead and take the lead on it.
Sure, let me just share my background, my window here. I assume everybody is seeing the RFP on their screen right now. If not, please speak up. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in quite a bit here so it's easier for everybody to see. And I didn't know what's the pleasure of the board of whether we want to go through this, through the entire RFP, or if there were specific issues you wanted to speak about.
I'm going to ask that Christine or Rob, if you have anything specific that you want to highlight as substantive, to bring that out. But other than that, what I'd like to do from the board seat here is make a motion ultimately to approve this in substantially the form provided. And that way, if you guys need to make any typo or like small minor changes, you're at your own discretion to do that. But if there's any policy level things, then you'd have to come back. But ultimately, I'd like to make a motion to approve this in substantially the form presented. And that way, You can do any edits if necessary. So I'll turn it over to Christine and Rob to tee up any issues that you want to bring forward to the board before we take action.
Okay, this could go pretty quickly, luckily then. The one issue that I would like to bring up to the board is the community match. There is no consensus among the communication union districts. There's several communication union districts that believe they're going to benefit greatly from this. There's other ones that don't want to take advantage of it. We've had additional conversations, and where we've settled is the leave an option but do no harm. So what we have for the community match program is the total amount of match that is available is using the same formula based on the mileage of underserved and unserved areas. Any money that is not used by a certain date will be reallocated by the same percentage. The one change that we would like to recommend that's not in the draft is on the date. Several CUDs expressed concern that their towns are just not going to be ready. The towns are being very conservative about using the ARPA funds, and that there would be little harm in providing a later date. So we'd like to recommend September 15th as opposed to April 15th.
CUDs don't
Hey,
want.
I'm getting background noise,
Yeah,
and it's Stephen J. I don't know who you are, but you are. If you can go on mute, that would be outstanding.
Got it. Let me.
Or
Thank
just
you.
mute him.
I'm gonna try to mute if I can find him on here.
No, he's muted.
He's muted. Okay, okay. Okay, so that is the one policy question. We went back and forth from everything from doing 100% competitive to taking it out of this RFP to doing a separate program. But the feedback we heard was, even from the CUDs that weren't interested, it's more a matter of the time they would have to spend raising the matching funds. What that tells me is that if we have a program where participation is optional, let the CUDs determine where they want to spend their time. If they want to take advantage of it, they take advantage of it. If they don't, they don't. And we reevaluate in August, but that gives the towns and the CUDs much time to decide on this. I also want to clarify that this isn't saying that a town is going to have to write a check to the CUD. This is saying that a town is pledging to do something in conjunction to further the mission of the CUD. That's one thing that may have gotten lost in some of the discussions here. So that's where we landed after many discussions, including even recently just on the Cuda call. So it's trying to think of what other. Stan and Christine, please jump in if there were other big changes or comments on this. Sorry.
Rob, let's take this one item before we move on to the next, if we could. Brian or Dan, what are your thoughts about moving the date to September 15th, 2022?
Thank you.
I'm good with it.
No objection.
I'm in support of that as well, so we're good here. Okay, go ahead, Rob.
Okay.
Yeah, Rob, when we get to Rob, go. I'll get to the end. I just have a few comments to make on the design standards we met and followed up with that.
Sure. Other than that, there were not many substantial changes. You have the RFP. There weren't any changes in the drafts. There's one or two typos we've discovered since, but with your motion, we'd be able to take care of those. We did hear back from Guidehouse and the administration about some changes we needed to do with reporting. That's all integrated into this. We received quite a bit more feedback from the CUDs and from others, and all of that feedback was integrated with few exceptions. There were some clarifying suggestions that we did not accept. So unless there's specific areas that the board would like us to dig into more, I'd say we go to the design standards. Or if Stan, you took the lead on integrating some of these changes. Was there other stuff that was materially different that you think we should focus attention on?
I don't think so. I think they really were conforming changes. making sure that we use the same term in all places, typographical things like that.
Yeah, we were fairly close last time, and this I think is even tighter. I'm trying to think of anything else that we did. I don't have the track changes version up here. Yeah. So do we want to switch to the design standards, or is there other areas that the board would like to look at? Patty, you're muted.
Let's go to design standards.
Okay.
Yeah, so on the outside plant requirements, we had a very well attended session with the design engineers for each of the CUDs that were involved. So it was a pretty good, rich meeting, and really most of this was clarification. So, but the one significant change, and I'll give you Dan and Brian a heads up on this one, is the idea of testing. The idea of testing every single and reporting every single splice point only makes sense after you've done standing time domain reflection tests based on the national standards. So Brian, you would forward me a note. It actually came from Steve Whitaker, and the group agreed actually that that was the better way to word this. So if you focus on, if you can scroll down and focus on where that language is, let's see.
Just tell me the number and letter.
Yeah, I'm trying to fast with this. Go up. I don't have it in front of me, so. Go down. Let's see where it is. Somewhere in there, there's a spec. Further down. Go back up.
Is there a word you could search to get?
Oh, there it is. It's number 3.
Okay.
So grantee design deliverables prior to closeout must include detailed planned optical measurement loss calculations. These planned losses will be compared to actual losses to ensure they fall within the optical expense budget. Loss testing shall be done in accordance with that ANSI spec. That's apparently a standard spec for the industry. So we've revised 3 to reflect that. And Dan and Brian, I'm looking particularly to you to see if you have any issues with that.
No objection.
Dan's
So-
good, I'm good.
Yep, other than that, that was the only real substantial change.
Okay. I can pull up the track changes version if we want to see if there's anything else, but assuming you've seen them both, you've read through it, and if nothing else catches your eye, the staff is in agreement.
All right, I'm going to put a motion on the table that we move the construction RFP as presented in substantially the form as presented today. Again, the reason to do it in its substantial form is so that in the event there are typos or any non-substantive materials, you can make changes. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Brian seconded. Are there any more discussion? Hearing none, we're going to call the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Ayes have it. Congratulations.
Thank you. Record time.
Nice work, Rob. Rob clearly did the heavy lifting on this, so thank you, Rob.
Well done. Well
But many
done,
thanks
Rob.
to Stan for going over this with his legal eye as well.
And thank you all for your great patience as we work through it. It's anything brand new coming up with is difficult to get us all on board, and really appreciate your patience as we got there.
And also to put it out to everybody out there, we know this didn't please anyone, and I think that's a good sign. There's things that everybody likes and things that everybody doesn't like in this. And if you have specific questions, we'll do an FAQ on the website where we could answer, because I'm confident there'll be the need for clarification on many of these items. But, great.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
I'm going to not share the screen anymore.
All right, next item on our agenda is staff updates. Christine, we'll turn that over to you.
Yeah, the first thing I'd like to call your attention to, I sent you out an email highlighting this, but I'll pull it up on the screen here. We have a report that's due January 15th to the legislature. And, you know, as far as a status report, I don't see any issue, but the issue will be the recommendations. So this morning I reached out to the heads of the committees in the Senate, and I reached out to Ann Cummings and Randy Brock. Of course, I spoke to Laura about the specific requirements around recommendations, which I don't think we're ready for, which was what my concern was. So let me pull this up on the screen, and then we'll discuss it. Bear with me. Okay. Okay, hang on. Okay, do you see the document?
Yes.
Okay. So in the annual report, you know, basically we're prepared to report status, but the concern I have is, in addition, and I'm going to read this through, so bear with me. In addition, and input with relevant stakeholders, which is an important term here, that we work with relevant stakeholders, the board shall make recommendations on whether and what authorized expenditures under the fund should be expanded to include funding for equipment replacement in the Department of Libraries, Fiber Connect network, funding for building Wi-Fi installations at multi-unit affordable housing owned by nonprofits, funding for digital inclusion efforts, funding for co-worker spaces, additional funding for communications workforce development initiatives, and funding for other broadband initiatives. So obviously, you know, we've been focused on trying to meet the 2022 construction season, and we haven't done a lot of work on this. So what I've asked in our report, if we can, you know, talk about what are, you know, how I could talk about some of the reaching out we've done at this point, but we're not ready to make recommendations. What I suggested is that, you know, basically put a timeline in here when we will, and we'll come back. I'll come back to the legislature in mid to late February and give them an update. But we've just started to reach out on these issues, and the committee chairs I spoke to were very sympathetic and understood, considering it was just Rob and I at the time. But now that we've got the staff, this is actually something I've already started working on. So what I'm going to recommend is that, you know, we'll put a report together and have it ready Monday morning, and I'll send you that report to you by email, and you provide comments individually. And then, you know, we'll get that report done and in the hands of the legislature by the end of next week. So you'll all have a chance to give an input on it. But I don't see anything real controversial here, because we're going to do a report of a status report, which we're all aware of. And as far as recommendations go, we don't have really anything in this area other than the fact that we'll come back and give them some updates. The other point, the important point we're going to make is we also have, they've asked us for recommended changes to Act 71, and Stan is working on the language on that as we speak, in terms of, in Act 71, there's a line there that talks about reversion of the assets to the state in the unlikely event, I'm using the unlikely event of a CUD failure. That's a problematic. And we've met with State Treasurer Beth Pierce, as well as the Michael Gagnon, who's the head of the Vermont Bond Bank. And, you know, they didn't really give us any strong recommendations on language, but we've come to the conclusion that what we ought to do is, and Stan's going to come up with some clearer language on this, is that in the event of a CUD failure, it will go into receivership, and we will the assets can be reverted to the state, but we will ensure that the financial partners, bondholders, or the finance partners get paid. Classic receivership. We can't afford. The last thing we want to do is not pay those folks, because ultimately that could shut down the network. And I don't think the legislature will have a problem with that language, but Stan has yet to write it up specifically. Anyway, I'll pause for a moment. Stan, do you have anything to say on that?
Sorry, no, not yet. I'm still working on the language and
Oh yeah, of course, I understand. I wouldn't expect you to have the language ready now. Anyway, so board members, what are your thoughts?
So I'll just chime in quickly. I sat in on the call with Beth Pierce and with Christine and Stan to talk about this issue with the default piece. And I'll just echo what Christine said, is there wasn't a lot of specific guidance. And to the extent that we can come up with some language on our own that balances out the needs during a default situation in protecting the bondholders as well as the state. So Stan, as Christine said, Stan is kind of a work in progress here, but the meeting just happened, less than a week ago. So more to come on that piece. In terms of the annual report requirement, Christine, are those items that you've highlighted in yellow, are those more pertinent for next year's update?
Yeah, the folks I spoke to, they understand that we'll have a much better direction next year, but they would like an interim update, which I'll be happy to do at the end of February.
I mean, I think all the other items in terms of reporting out, what grant dollars we've sent out for the pre-construction process and giving a full update on that. Obviously, you're in good shape to do that. But even by February, would we be ready to do we need funds for additional things list?
Oh no, I don't plan. I didn't set the expectation we would have, have specifics. Basically, what I do is provide them a timeline of how we're going to proceed on these items. But I've just begun to reach out to the stakeholders. So I want to be able to say at the end of February, I've spoke to these folks and here's how we're moving forward. Just to give the legislature confidence that we are addressing these issues. Okay.
And I think as we progress, we will identify issue lists as we're progressing the construction phase that need additional funding. I see it from now through the end of the year that we're going to start to peel the onion back and identify a bunch of additional issues. So I would just put that in the annual report update for this round.
Yep. So
any other comments from board members or staff?
So I do two other staff updates. First, the broadband project developer position has been posted. We have one application in so far. We're waiting for HR to review that application and forward it to us before we can set up an interview. But things are looking good and moving along with that. The other thing that we're working on still, and Will from Cuda will be able to speak more to this, is the situation with USDA Reconnect, the requirement of a comparative audit before you can apply. Many CUDs do not have that ability at this point. They're too new. The one good piece of information we learned is that the state can serve as the parent organization. So we have additional calls set up this week and are working to explore options. But even if the state does act as the parent organization, the entire amount of the application, and if it's accepted, the entire amount for the project plus a few years has to be guaranteed, which is still another big obstacle for allowing the communication union districts to access Reconnect in most cases, not all cases, but most cases.
Okay. I just want to recognize Laura. She has her hand up, but also Laura, I think you joined at roughly 12:22. So that's what they show on my calendar. So welcome, Laura. Laura, your screen's yours.
Yes, thank you. And Patty, I apologize. For some
No
reason, I
worries.
had it stuck in my head at 12:30. I do not know why, but I was okay with the RFP as it was. So
Okay,
happy to
great.
hear that it passed. I just had a quick clarifying question. I'm not sure that we have asked this before, but I noted that HR is approving the applicant before.
So-
Can you just tell us just a little bit
Sure.
more high level about that process? Is it possible that we would have applicants that don't come to us for some reason?
They review the minimum qualifications and then pass it along to us. That simply didn't happen last week. So I'm expecting it any day now. I can see the application, it's in there, but that's the first step before we can schedule interviews. And I don't even know if we can schedule interviews until the job closes, which I'll have to see what the date they set for while
Thanks.
we're accepting. So
Yeah, thanks,
But
Rob.
it's- yeah.
I guess my bigger question, and I'm not sure that you answered it, is is it possible that we would have folks apply and those resumes would not make their way to you all?
If somebody applies and doesn't check that they meet the minimum requirements, it does not reach us. If they check that box and HR rejects it, we can still request to see the application, and we have
Okay.
done that in the past. But there is a
Thank you.
case where we don't even get to see it, which I know did happen last time around. So
Thank you.
Yeah, I have one more update as well, Rob, when you're ready.
sure, I'm good to go.
Yeah, so look, I don't know if I brought this to the board's attention, but you know, one of my concerns going into the legislative session is when we get into the issue of when we get into the food fight in terms of funding, with additional funding coming from the infrastructure bill that was signed by the president on November 15th. It's been brought to my attention that maybe that money doesn't automatically come to us. So we will have to defend our position. So and I feel a little bit like swinging in the dark here because, when we go into the legislature and talk about how much money we need, I'm not sure what that is. We've come up with an estimate of around, maybe the network cost of $50,000 a mile, and 10,200 miles. It comes to around 510 million for the entire network. But that's a rough estimate. And what that doesn't tell us is how much funding we need actually to make a serious business case. I've said in the past, I thought that number was somewhere around 250 million, but now we've seen increases on labor and materials. So I reached out to our Rural Innovation Services, I think that's our RISI anyway, we call it, to get a quote on what it would cost to update their recommendations that came out of the telecom plan. Because in the telecom plan, they put a range of something around 341 million to 540 million, which isn't very helpful. But they came back with a quote of $100,000, and I'm like, okay, I don't think we should be spending $100,000 on something like this. So anyway, I just got that quote this morning, and I'm basically saying, look, we're not going to spend $100,000 to come up with an estimate, because I think we can do that with working with the CUDs on our own. But I just wanted to put that out there to the board before I completely write that off.
And just to add to that, the reason that we reached out to RISI was because they just completed the telecom plan. We thought they have all the data that this was based on, and we thought it would be an easy update as opposed to doing a more competitive process where someone would have to start from scratch.
So does anybody have any contrary opinion of the fact that I don't think we should spend $100,000 on this?
I agree with you full-heartedly, Christine.
Okay. So that's all I've got.
Okay. Let me get back to the agenda here. Okay, next item up for the agenda is the Cuda update.
Hi, can I be, can I be heard? I think my camera is disabled.
We can hear you. Hi,
Okay.
Will.
Yeah, this is me. Okay, can you see me now? Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for hosting a Cuda update. We had a meeting this morning that was, we weren't able to reach consensus on the community match issue, but otherwise was a productive meeting. I'll start first by addressing the issue that just came up regarding putting together the data to demonstrate our need for funding and making our case. The first point I'll make about that is that I plan to work with Christine as closely as possible to support our position to the legislature. And as I understand it, that's going to be starting this week with a meeting with Representative Briglin's committee. So I'll be right alongside representing the CUDs and backing Christine, and hopefully having Christine back me as we demonstrate, show the information that we need to close a funding gap in order to get this done as affordably as possible for Vermonters. To that point, thanks largely to our chairperson, FX Flynn, we do have an estimator spreadsheet with pretty extensive data on estimates for each CUD for non-CUD towns and in effect for the entire state for fiber build-out. I know that there are, and FX I'm sure can speak to this a bit as well, I know there are some updates that we could incorporate into that, such as new information on materials, such as new boundaries of CUDs that have taken on additional towns. But I think that we can leverage that data to serve as a good source for demonstrating our need to the legislature. So I'll confer with FX about that and see if we can get that data updated even further. But it's, I think, a really good starting place and fits in pretty well with Christine's perspective on how much funding is going to be necessary. To that point, with the data, with workforce development, we've successfully deployed the survey to contractors, construction firms, telecom companies, all those firms around Vermont, New England, and the Northeast. I've started to collect the results, and we'll begin the analysis once all the major players have gotten their responses in. Based on the way that we constructed that survey, we'll have a very good idea of the kind of supply that we'll have for workforce, and also on the capability of each firm's workforce to get fiber construction work done. I think that that data will allow us to figure out exactly what our deficit will be for this year, or very close. And from that, of course, we'll be able to take our demand and figure out exactly what kind of policy we will need to expand our workforce further for this year. So that data is really starting to come together. And I think that we're going to need to be working with the legislature as well to get those policies enacted so that we have the workers to get this job done. And I hope to work with the VCBB board and staff to make sure that we can carry out that mission effectively. So other updates from the CUDs, we're working on acquiring shared services, a little bit on public relations heading into the new year, just trying to make sure that everyone knows what we're doing as we plan to start construction. And I have a great announcement from NEK Broadband that they have started connecting customers with their Concord project. So another CUD is on the ground. We're really hitting the ground running this year. I'm going to keep the messaging strong. Going to make sure each CUD gets their materials and their contractors in line and time. And I think the construction RFP will be a really great help to that. So thanks for your work on that. I'd be happy to take some questions, and especially regarding those data points and about heading into the legislative session, how the Cuda and the CUDs can work closely with the VCBB. Thank you.
Okay, Laura has her hand up. Laura, the floor is yours.
Thanks. And, I'm not sure if this is necessarily just a question for Will, Patty, or maybe for Will and Christine. I feel like it might be helpful for the board, and my guess is it may be helpful, maybe it may not be helpful, may be helpful for the legislature to have kind of an assessment of of where all of the CUDs are at, kind of an easy to demonstrate sort of this is where each one of them are on the track. I definitely would like to see that, just to have a sense of if we have any capacity issues or need to ensure that we're providing enough kind of support in all areas of the state. So I don't know if that's something for Will or for you, Patty, or for Christine, but that's something I would be interested in. And my guess is it would probably be helpful for the legislature.
Yeah, exactly correct, Laura. I do have that report prepared for another instance, working with some of our potential funding partners from the private sector. I'm going to expand that report today and tomorrow. I could get a draft of that on to you and Christine, basically just going through a little bit of background and then a progress report on each CUD kind of relative to each other, with a special focus on their need for funding and their plans for this coming year. So I can get that forwarded on to yourself and Christine and anyone else who's interested in.
Yeah, Will, why don't you send that? Will, why don't you send that to the full board so we can all see it?
Noted. Yeah, I would just want to make sure that I've got details on each CUD correct and fleshed out, and keep it concise for the legislative purpose. So I'll forward that on. I'll try to get that to everyone by tomorrow afternoon. I don't think we have a meeting set, a date set yet for our meeting with Representative Briglin's committee, but was hoping to kind of have that to hand out to everyone at that meeting. So I already have it prepared, but I'll flesh it out and make sure it's set for tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, that'd be great, because that's actually a requirement in the in Act 71. We're required to provide that update as part of our report as well. So thank you, Will. You've made our job easier at the VCBB by providing that to us, and we'll just, make sure we'll if you don't mind, we'll steal some of your language out of that and include it in our report.
That's preferable, because I try to stay in as close touch with the CUDs as I can, and try to offer a perspective on which CUDs could benefit from different policies. Everyone's in a different place and everyone has a different strategy, so I think it's important to just have those nuances across all 9 districts.
Great.
And just for context of the full board, Representative Briglin reached out to Christine to invite for an update of the VCBB of what's going on and our plans for the future. Christine's going to take that. I think it's appropriate for the executive director to field that anyway. I'm not planning to sit in on that one.
Yeah, I imagine there'll be a number of those requests coming up. So,
agreed. Okay. Anything else, Will, that you'd like to share?
That pretty much does it for my list. I may have. Well, we did briefly discuss the issue of the Act 71 clause regarding where assets will go in the event of CUD failure. I'm glad to hear that Stan is working on that, and I'm happy to help as well. I had a couple of ideas, but I think the receivership is a really good way to go forward. So definitely look forward to hearing more on that. It is an obstacle for CUDs as they are starting to explore their routes for third-party private sector funding. And I'll just also note, as I mentioned on the VCUDA call today, our meeting, that I'm really starting to explore some avenues for establishing centralized private-public partnership funding in parallel to the VCBB. So definitely more to come on that. I'm especially going to be talking with Rob and Christine about that, but the support of the board in leveraging private funding would be really helpful to us, because we're doing our best, but EC Fiber, the first CUD, has had their experience with this, and we know that we want to help mitigate some of their debt, as well as the debt of the other CUDs going forward. So that's something that I will be continually updating on and looking for support on.
Good.
Okay. So, Will, I briefly touched on USDA. I didn't know if you wanted to add more.
I knew there was something. Thanks, Rob. Yeah, we've been talking with representatives from the USDA congressional office about how to solve this issue, which is that CUDs just are too new to have the comparative audit available. We have another meeting with them tomorrow. I really don't expect any new ground or headway to be made on this, frankly, in that meeting. Where we're at is that we pretty much have to have the state of Vermont guarantee any CUD reconnect applications for the entire project for an extended period, at least 5 years, I would think. So I'm also trying to gauge the interest in CUDs in applying to this program right now. It's an extensive process. The deadline is February 22nd. As much as this would be really helpful in helping us drop fiber to the last mile, I think time is slipping away from us here. I mean, I know a little bit about this program, but there has to be a lot of engineering support and work that goes into these applications. And I'm happy to support where possible, but I'm worried that this is going to slip from our fingers. I'd like to know if there's any update on the consulting support that the VCBB has looked for. I can imagine that's kind of a difficult search considering the nature of this program. But we'll see what the USDA has to say tomorrow, and probably then look to them to try to support us for any CUDs that want to try to apply to this program in this cycle.
In terms of the update on the consultant, we've been in a holding pattern to determine whether this is feasible. So we're going to make a decision after the call with USDA tomorrow, and the information you're gathering from the different CUDs of whether it would be helpful or whether the CUDs that are pursuing this already have a consultant at this point. It was quite the wrench thrown into things with the USDA requirements.
Christine, with Will's announcement that we have some consumers being hooked up, does that, in your mind, trigger a press release, some sort of press?
Yeah, we're actually, I'm looking to NEK Broadband.
Yes.
Go ahead, Rob, you take it.
Yeah, NEK Broadband wants to wait until they have the full capacity to respond to requests for several hundred drops. So it's a matter of it's not happening immediately, but it will be happening in the next few weeks. We want them to take the lead. But yeah, I think we should do a press release, and if they want to do some other type of a press event up there, we need to celebrate all of our victories and all of our big steps forwards. And I can't congratulate them enough for pulling this off in a few short months.
There's an email that I'll just have gotten from them as well with more details.
Yes.
I want to echo what you just said. Press release, not a press conference, to make it a whole lot easier on all of you.
Yeah,
okay, 8 a.m. on a Monday after a holiday weekend. Just, I don't know.
Yeah, well, Rob and I talked about that.
Never again.
Actually, Rob talked to me about this, and let's not do that again, Rob said.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, Bill, if you're all set, we'll close up. Floor is still yours.
That's all I had. Unless there's any further questions, I'm happy to yield the rest of my time if there is any.
Okay, excellent. Next item on the agenda is public input. Rob, you want to run that for us?
Sure. Let me fix the spotlight here, and let's see. I believe we had one hand up, or do we have any hands up now?
I saw Chris Recchia earlier. Do you have his hands back up?
Okay, Chris, if you have your hand up. Sorry, I'm trying to. Okay, so let me spotlight Chris and let you be able to use your camera there. Oops.
Well, thanks so much. I'm gonna defer on the camera because I didn't shower or shave today because working from home never requires that. So I'm sorry. So I will just verbally tell you that the reason I raised my hand a little bit earlier, and I'm happy to talk with Will and anyone else who wishes to discuss this, is the USDA an RUS grant? If it's an RUS grant, then there's a bunch of, on the energy side, there's a bunch of people that have experience with this process that may be helpful. I'll just leave it there on that. Then in terms of the RFP, I think you all, by the process of the working through, you arrived at the right resolution, particularly on the community support piece. I thank you very much, because frankly, for our towns, they would feel like this was a bait and switch because they were never told there was any obligation to, or even an ask to commit to funding. The closest we've come to that is hub agreements, which, we do get towns to support hub work and hub location. In exchange, we provide internet service to that location, but it's a relatively low valued item. So anyway, I think you ended up in the right place with that. So I also just want to say that I think many of you know that I'm leaving my position at the end of the month. This might be the last meeting I have, although if you have 2 weeks from now, I might join that. But I just wanted to thank you all for your tremendous work, for your effort. I'm very proud of kind of what EC Fiber has done and in terms of laying the groundwork for the CUDs. And I just wish you all the most success. So thanks very much.
Chris, we wish you all the best as well. That's a little bit of a surprise and shock on this part. Yeah, just I'm a little speechless.
Things change. Thank you, Patty. Yeah, I know. Well, you shocked me a couple of months ago, so now I'm shocking you, right?
Keep in touch, Chris.
Will do. Thank you all, and keep up the good work. You're all great. Thanks.
Back at you. Okay, Rob, anybody else with hand up?
Good. Looks like Krista has her hand up.
I think Rob is frozen.
Krista, you go ahead.
You can hear us. The floor is yours.
Okay, great. I just wanted to say thank you to Rob and Christine and to the VCBB board. We, as you know, went live last week, and we're extraordinarily excited about that and what that means. I just wanted to clarify in terms of the timing, there is an extreme shortage on drops right now, and we have 10 available, and that's part of why we're not issuing a press release and working with WCVT. We have another 25 scheduled for January 17th arrival, and another 55 scheduled for arrival on the 27th of January. So we've done quite a lot just to get those in place, and so we want to be able to set expectations with our upcoming customers. So we have a several-hour meeting tomorrow with WCVT to flesh out that strategy and prepare for our first rounds of customers. So a really huge thank you to our partners, to Waitsfield Champlain Valley Telecom and to the National Rural Telecommunications Cooperative and to Mission Broadband. They really did a heroic level of work over the last 3 months to actually build this roughly 25 miles going to more than 300 addresses. And so it's a huge accomplishment. And I think that it will help us as we go into the legislative season in demonstrating what a CUD can do, and that we can put the resources and expertise in place to do this in a professional manner. So really just wanted to give a shout out to our partners, to Green Mountain Power, to Velco, to Eustis. A lot of people put a lot of effort in and a lot of time and a lot of weekends to get the entire project built and completed by the 29th of December. So thanks.
Yeah, I'll add too that, this is a great collaborative effort with Lamoille FiberNet as well, because
yes, thank you.
That managed to be a flow-through grant. It required cooperation between the two. So I think it's a great story. That's a great story about how CUDs work together to make this happen in such a short period of time, along with your partners. So when you're ready, let's collaborate on a good press release, because I think it tells a great story. And timing.
You bet. And thank you for mentioning Lamoille FiberNet. That was huge. It enabled us to more than double the project and to use $421,000 in grant funding that would have otherwise been returned to the federal government. So we really appreciate their willingness to do something that didn't, directly benefit them, but was for the good of our overall community. And that's the way they see it. So we really appreciate having such a great relationship with our surrounding CUDs and especially Lamoille.
So this is Rob. I'm on my phone now. I'm having some computer issues. So someone else is going to have to look in the chat for hands that are up until I restart my computer.
Okay, I got this. Anybody else have any feedback they would like to present? I don't see any hands coming up. So I'll take that as a good sign. So I'll turn it back over to you, Patty.
Okay, so next item on the agenda is executive session. So I'd take a motion to move into executive session as premature disclosure. Premature general public knowledge would clearly place the public body or a person involved at a substantial disadvantage.
Yeah, and let me add to this too, that for those on the call, that this was the last item on the agenda, so that we will motion to adjourn. You're welcome to stay on the line, that you may have some time freed up for you.
Thank you, Christine, for the latter. I'll go with the latter. Thanks. See ya. Happy New Year, everybody. Bye.
Good look at you, Chris. Bye.
I'll shortly send another invite. I just realized I didn't send an invite for the executive session, or if Christine wants to do that, you should. Both of you have the ability to do that. I'm still trying to get into my computer here.
Okay, I'll send an invite right now to the rest of the board for executive session. Thanks, Rob.
Okay.
Bear with me.
Right. Christine, before we end this, we need a motion to go into an executive session. So I made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Dan seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, now we can go in.
Okay, I'm sending you an invite now.
So we're leaving.
Patty, do we need to do a motion to adjourn and have that seconded, or is that after?
After.
That'll be after executive session. We'll come back out.
Okay.
We'll come back out of executive session, and if there's any actions taken, we'll report that out. But we will adjourn after executive session.
Okay.
Good question, Alyssa. All right, we're going to hang up and go to the other call.
Okay, that invite will be coming to you right now.
Okay, sounds good.
They need to call Alyssa. I'm not sure if she's doing it via phone, but okay.
Yeah.
So I guess the recording is ongoing. There's just going to be a giant gap since some people stayed in the meeting. But that's fine. Who is?
Yeah, with 203 428.
I don't know who that is.
So Alyssa joined us, but I don't know who 203 is.
Yeah, out of curiosity, who is area code 203?
That's Connecticut.
Yeah. All right.
Right, this is Patty. My camera decided not to work this round.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna, because we're just basically going to adjourn, I'm gonna be cameraless, faceless for this part. It is very strange how this camera comes in and out of working and not working.
Okay. We are recording, so.
All right, let me know, do we have everybody?
Alyssa is here. The entire board is here, and someone from Connecticut's here.
Okay. Okay, no action was taken in executive session. Thank you all for participating, and those that are on the phone that were not in executive sticking around. Our last item on the agenda is basically to adjourn, or not basically, but to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Great.
Thank you, everybody.
Wow.
Christine, when is our next meeting?
2 weeks, right?
Yep.
Yep. That would be the 17th.
Okay, so we'll see you all on Monday the 17th.
Happy New Year, everyone. Oh, that's a holiday.
Oh yeah,
oh,
right.
No.
Oh wait, yeah.
Oh no.
Oh, it isn't?
We're gonna, Patty, we're gonna have to schedule it. Shall we move it out a week to the 24th?
I don't.
It's a good question. Rob, concerns with that if we pushed it a week?
I think we should be okay. So there might be a pre-construction grant coming in. It's going to end up conflicting with, no, it won't conflict with VCUDA. VCUDA just decided to schedule their meetings on the weeks we're not meeting, and now we're shifting. We would have 2 meetings in a row, but that might be useful.
What is the holiday? It's Martin Luther King?
Yeah, let's just plan for that, Rob. Let's plan for a 17th and the 24th. I mean, the 24th and the following 31st.
Or a suggestion, could we move it to a Tuesday?
No, that doesn't, I don't think it works for Laura, right? Because the session's in session.
But you may need to meet before the 24th. Yeah. So if you do need to meet, so what if, yeah, if you did need to meet before the 24th, yeah, I think that if we could meet early on a Tuesday morning, that would probably be better than.
So early Tuesday.
You can't, the whole legislative session cannot be held hostage to me. So, I mean, yeah, probably earlier Tuesday morning would be fine. Because we probably won't, that's usually we're on the floor and it's likely we will not have a lot to vote on. Could be that that's not the case.
So Tuesday,
my vote would be doing Tuesday the 18th instead of punting it the next week.
Okay. All right. So we'll do it at like 9 a.m. 9 a.m. on Tuesday the 18th.
I mean, that works for me, but I don't know if we have anybody else on the board members.
Well, we'll get a message out to and
okay.
Yeah, we have our meeting. We have our meeting with June at 10 a.m. But we can
we'll just have to move that.
Yeah. So 9 a.m. on the 18th.
That works.
Okay. Okay.
For how many hours? Just saying. I'm sorry.
I think we had to plan at least 3. So
9
to noon.
9 to noon.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, I'll send out an invite to everybody, and I'll cancel the one on the 17th.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you all.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you,
Right.
everybody.
Bye.
Right. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.